Hi there, hope you're keeping well. In this video we're going to be looking at an app on Office 365 called Forms. I'm hoping that I'm able to put a timestamp at the bottom of this video so that if you are watching this at a later date, you're able to skip ahead to find the information you're looking for. So by the end of this video you'll know what Forms is and how to access the app. You'll be able to see the type of questions that you can ask. You'll also be able to see the way you can structure questions and how that will give you some data. We'll then look at the way you can implement media such as images or videos. And then finally we'll look at what the learners will see. Forms is an app that is designed to create either a survey or a quiz. Now this is primarily designed to gather data. With this in mind, we're going to utilise this app to ensure that we meet the needs of our learners, that we're able to set the correct pace or the structure for the learning, and that we're able to keep an eye on the well-being to ensure that regardless if they're learning at school or at home, we can continue to offer the support if and when the children need that. To access Forms, first you need to log into the Office 365 account. Once you're logged in, if you go to the top left hand corner, you'll see your waffle, which are these 9 dots here. And if you click on the waffle, it'll show you the list of apps. When I look down the list of apps, I can see this F here, which stands for the Forms app. When I click on that logo, it'll take you to the home page for the Forms app. Now when you first access the app, it gives the option as to whether you want to create a quiz or you want to create a form. On the surface, they both look similar, and in essence they do both provide data. The only difference is when you create a quiz, you can set correct answers, whereas you can't do that in Forms. So in a quiz, if you've got the question 5 times 5, it will be able to tell you who got the answer right, rather than a list of answers for you to skim through to see who gave you the correct answer. So Forms has 8 different question settings, and this all depends on which type of information you want to gather. What we'll do is we'll look through the different question types over the next 7 slides. Okay, if you want to add a multiple choice question, you click on Add New, then you click on Choice. So to start off, we could put a question like, who is this? And then if we click the Add or Insert Media, I'm going to click an image. Let's type in someone who the children might know, like Billie Eilish. And just click search. Right, we can see that image there is really clear, so we can click on that one and add it in. So you get the question, who is this? And on the right hand side the image will appear there. So the first one we could put Ariana Grande, and we know that isn't the correct answer, so we'll not put the tick there, but it is Billie Eilish. So because that is the correct answer, we can put the tick there. Okay. After that, if we want to add another question, so we could put another multiple choice question in there. So we could say, which of the following numbers or factors of 6? Now, because it said following numbers, there's going to be multiple answers, so let's just click that button there. That means there's more than one answer. So the first one we could put in 3. We know that that is a factor of 6, so we can put the correct answer. Next we might want to put 12. Now it isn't the correct answer, so we might want to put a comment. So if they do choose that one, it'll give them some feedback. So you could put 12 is a multiple of 6, not a factor of 6. Another answer, so we could put in 2. We know that that is a factor of 6. And then next up, if we put 18, we know 18 is a multiple of 6, not a factor of 6, so we can put that answer in there now. Another example, if you wanted to put a really maths-based question in there, we could click what is the value of x? Now we can't put much more of a question in there, so if we just click on this ellipses, we can put add subtitle, and we could put in there as well on the ellipses that it's a math style question. So it says ABC when it's on maths, and it goes 1, 2, 3 when it's on written. So it's on maths at the minute. If we click in there, it'll give us the maths tab. So we could put that 2x equals 10 and then click OK. So for the first option, we might put that x equals 20. Now we know that's not true, but that might be a common mistake that the children might think. We could then put x equals 5, and as we know that's the correct answer. Let's put another option in. So let's say they've done 10 plus 2 is 12, which obviously is incorrect. We could put that in there. Or they might put 10 take away 2 is 8, so we could put 8 as the other option. But as they know, 2 times 5 gives us 10. Okay, so we can click off that. That's another question that we've got in there now. So let's add another question. So let's go for a choice question again. Now it leaves on what we had before, so it still has the maths question and subtitle. I'm going to go away from maths. I'm going to click off the maths, but I want to leave the subtitle in. So I could put in, what is the verb in the following sentence? So I could put Joseph is happy today. So I've got Joseph, that isn't a verb. Is the verb, so we tick that one there. Happy, another option, today. And each step when you put the questions in, you can click on this button here, and that means that the answer is required. So they've got to answer that question before they submit the quiz, whereas further up I haven't made it required, which means that they don't have to answer those questions. And that is how we use the multi-step tool. Alright, so let's have a look at the text answers. There's two different options when we click on the text. The first one, it goes to short answers, which just means that this button isn't highlighted. So if it's highlighted, it's long. If it's not highlighted, it's short. So if you had a question like, what is our school called? The short answer means that you can actually put different answers in. It's not case sensitive, so we'll put St. Paul's is one answer, and then wanted to put it in, think, oh, what happens? So they put it with capital letters. What will end up happening is when we press return, it just disappears because it's not case sensitive, it's got that there. But it does pick up on punctuation, so you might want to then put in St. Paul's without punctuation. You might just want to put Paul's. You might want to put St. Paul. You get general idea. Okay, you might want to put Paul as well. So it gives the different answers that you think are acceptable, and then you'll be able to put the answer in there. The other option is if you want a longer answer, so you might want to give them a text with a longer answer. Now you can't give a correct answer here, but you might want to give them something like, can you create a poem? So put the question mark there as well. Okay, and what we'll do, I know we're going to look at the responses later on, but it's important that we just have a quick look now just to see how these vary. Okay, so if we'll look at how the response will see this, so we'll click preview. When it comes to the first question here, they've got a little box to write in, so they could put St. Paul's, and they've got the answer there. Whereas where they've got, can you create a poem, they can create a far longer piece of writing. So let's say we've got a budding author like Charles Dodgson or Lewis Carroll, as he's better known. They can produce that bit of writing, and it gives them far more space. It just goes on indefinitely, and that means that if you want to give them an extended bit of writing or something where they're given a bit more information, they have that with the longer text. We're now going to look at the rating tool, so we'll click add new and click rating. This could be a really good tool if you want the children to say how they did in the lesson. So how did you find this lesson? So just like we might get them to self-assess using the 3 ticks against the LO in their books, we could do that again. So not very confident in the middle, very confident. You could change that from a star rating, you could change it with number rating as well. Let's stick with a star there. We could do it as well if you've been doing a book review, so you could create a rating. So let's say we move that up to a 5-star, or we could go a 10-star. You could say, would you recommend the book Halls? And it gives them the chance to do that. And again, you've got the option as to whether or not you require the answers to be given before they submit the quiz. So if you want to add a question with a date answer, you click add new and then click date. I'd imagine we'd use this mostly in something like history. So if you want to look at how closely the events of World War II happened, you might want to start with when did Germany invade Poland? Because this is pretty much what started the events off, so we can put that in there, and the answer to that's obviously the 1st of September 1939. The next question, so if we look at the date again, could be when did Britain and France declare war with Germany? And that happened on the 3rd of September, so 2 days later, 1939. You then might want to put the next question in, so when did Poland surrender? So obviously they didn't have as many troops or as many machines, so they surrendered on the 27th of September. They only lasted 26 days with that invasion. The next one you might want to put in is when did Germany invade France? We know that happened just a matter of months later on the 10th of May 1940. Then you might want to put another question in, when did France surrender? Which again only happened a little while later on June 22nd, 1940, or technically came into effect on the 25th of June 1940. And when we preview those questions there, this is how it will look. So we can click on the answer. I can then put in 1939, so you can just type that in and click on it, then go back to September, then just click on the first and the answer comes. And then when did they declare war? So again, 1939, click on that, go back to September and click the third. When did Poland surrender? So again, you'd go to 1939, go back to September and click on the 27th. So we're going to look at the Net Promoter Score and the Likert questions together because they are quite similar and they do give us very similar data. So to start off with, we'll look at the Net Promoter Score. Now it does give a very generic question at the beginning, so it says, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or a colleague? Let's just get rid of the or colleague because it is aimed at children. We might want to change us to St. Paul's as well, just to make it really clear. So they could click anywhere from 0 of not likely at all to 10 of extremely likely. And what we can do is we can just click that they are required to answer that question before they submit the quiz. Now you could use that Net Promoter Score if you wanted to do something like give an answer where there's a set score of 0 to 10. So you might want to say, how many times has St. Paul's won the West Football League Cup? So we could put none at the beginning and 10 at the end. And obviously we can't ask that question for much longer because that good, that will have 10 or more trophies in no time. Okay, moving on though to the Likert questions. Now the Likert could give you a little bit more information. So let's imagine in PSHCE we're looking at things like fight, flight, freeze, friend or flop. But at the same time you're reading the Silver Sword and you might want to ask a question like, how do you think Jan would react in these situations? So again, we are saying fight, flight, freeze, friend, or flop. So let's imagine there is an angry gorilla. How would you respond in that situation? How about soldiers enter the village, or people attack his friends? Now, unlike some of the other questions in the quiz, we can't give it a correct answer, and that's somewhat annoying because if there's a question like how ready to respond to a situation where there's an angry gorilla, there's a really clear answer. He would naturally respond with friend, because that is what he does. He naturally responds in that situation. But that's not necessarily a bad thing though, because he might respond in a situation to soldiers entering a village. He might naturally respond with flight, because he did that in the courtroom because he was quite scared. Or he might naturally respond with fight, because he does have that sort of natural instinct of fighting against soldiers as well. Okay, in terms of people attack his friends, probably would go again with fight again, because that is a natural reaction for him. We could use those like it questions as well if we want to gauge some reaction from the children. So, how do you feel about the following? So if we put something like very good, we'll see that actually then gives us some suggestions for the other outcomes. So because we put very good there, it gives us an idea of good. So very good, good, fair in the middle, poor next, and then very poor at the end. So you can see they've got the options of clicking along there. Okay, so I might say, how do you feel about the following? So school dinners. We know that we pick very good because they are very tasty at St Paul's. Next up, Office 365, and let's hope by the time they're using this they'll be very good at it as well, because they'll be used to this new system. And next up, the lesson today, and then we can gauge if they found it very good or very poor. And that's how we use those two types of questions. If you want to create a question with a file upload, you click add new, drop down and go to file upload. Now this is quite useful if you've got questions where you want the children to take a picture and upload it, or if you've done something like, can you recite the poem Jabberwocky, and then you can set the limit of 10 megabytes, 100 megabytes or a gigabyte for the file size. And this is quite good if you want them to upload something where it's not just typing. It could be an audio file, a visual file, a video, anything they've got on the computer that you want them to upload straight to the quiz. If you want to include a ranking question, you click add new, drop down menu and ranking. And at this point these type of questions are for putting information in order. So if I had something like, who has scored the most Premier League goals? Top scorer with 260 goals, Alan Shearer. The second highest scorer Man U player, Wayne Rooney. And then in third place, the player who played for Man U and Newcastle, Andy Cole. Another question, so we'll think back to that date question, put in ranked order. You can say, can you put these events in order? So number 1, Germany invaded Poland, Britain and France declare war on Germany. I'm going to forget one of the events and I'm going to put next, Germany invades France, and then I realise, oh wait a second, Poland surrender, and obviously that happened before France, so you just click on this little toggle here and drag it up. So Germany invade Poland, Britain and France declare war on Germany, Poland surrender, Germany invades France, and then France surrender. There we go. And when it comes to the answers, it kind of looks like this. So they come in a different order. So they then just drag it up. So it's Alan Shearer, Wayne Rooney, Andy Cole, and then they just click Germany invades Poland and takes at the top. When creating a survey, you've got a choice of either having each question follow on, so all the learners get exactly the same questions, and this can be quite useful for a quiz for the end of a lesson or a daily quiz. However, what you can also do is have a branching question. Now this can happen when one answer can lead to maybe a different question. So if on your daily quiz you say, do you need any extra help with your work? Okay, if a child then puts yes, I need some help, but You don't ask them what kind of help they need. It's kind of a pointless question. Likewise, if you say, do you need any help with your work, and then say no, and then you ask them what kind of help do you need, again, a bit of a pointless question. So what we'll do is on the next slide, we'll look at a dinner time survey or a dinner time quiz to show how the branching questions will give a different structure depending on the answers given. To model how we can use the branching, I've created a quiz called School Dinners. Now, first up, I'm just going to click on the theme, and I'm just going to scroll down to picture of food. So I'll pick this food. Yeah, I'll pick this food here with some pizzas on, just to make it more appealing to the children. Now, when we look at the first question, because I've already put the questions in there just to save some time, the first question takes me 2 ways in terms of the 2 types of people who are answering it. It says, what do you have at lunchtime? So either they have a school dinner or they have a packed lunch. Now, depending on how they answer that question is going to take me the type of other questions I want to know. So what I can do is I can click on that question there, and then afterwards you can click add new, and what I could do is I can, instead of adding a different type of question, I can create a section, and I've already done that previous. So I've created 2 sections. The first section is school dinners, and that's where the questions of people who have school dinners go. And then I've created a section called packed lunches, which is where the questions for children with packed lunches will go. So when I go to question number 1, which is going to take me those 2 different ways, I click on the question and I just click on the ellipses here, and it gives me some more options. And when I look at that, I'm going to click on the add branching. So for the people who click on school dinners, it's going to take them to the question on school dinners. So the section of school dinners, which are all questions for people who have school meals. And then for the people who pick packed lunches, they're going to go to the section that says packed lunches. Now, when I look at all the questions that I've put in for the school dinners, so how likely are you to recommend school dinners to a friend? Can't ask that for someone on packed lunches because they don't know. How would you rate the school dinners? Again, that's very specific. And then how do you find the school dinners? So different type of questions there in the Leica style. Again, quite straightforward. Once they've finished that, I then want them to go to the end of the form because I don't answer the packed lunch questions. When we go to the packed lunch questions, so these are the ones that you'll go to straight away. If you've clicked the packed lunches, it'll say, why do you have a packed lunch? So they can type the answer in there. And the next one says, would you like to have school dinners? Now, at this point, it's going to take you 2 ways. If they say yes, I'm not going to ask them why, because that might be for reasons they're not in control of, so I'll say end the form. If they say no, I'm just going to go to question number 7. Why would you not want to have a school dinner? At that point, they might put in that actually some information we'll want to feed back. Right, so when we've put all those branching options in, let's have a look and see how the form would run for the people who carry it out. So let's have a preview. So if I go in there and I'm someone who has a school dinner, I click on school dinners, I click next, and it takes me straight away to the dinner section, so I can click on different options. I definitely recommend it. Dinner at St Paul's, very tasty. It's definitely a 5-star experience. The taste, I would say, is very good for school dinners. Size of the meal, I think, yeah, they're really good size. You're not going to go hungry with the school dinner. There's fantastic variety, the amount of different options. They have 3 choices a day, and as well as that, it changes throughout the week. And the staff are always friendly, always know the kids by name as well, so definitely definitely the works, and you can click submit. Alternatively, if someone was to have a packed lunch and they click there, their next question is going to take them straight away to why do you have a packed lunch. It could be I do not like hot food. Could be the question. Would you like to have school dinners? If I said no, it's going to give me the option, why do you not want to have school dinners? If I say yes, you just submit the form. So no, I just like to eat sandwiches. So you get the general idea, and then they can submit that form there. So 2 different options of forms depending on the answers that are given. So we can also use sections to break up our quizzes as well. So we'll start a new quiz here, and let's call it reading quiz 1. Okay, you can put a description there, and if we just click add new, what we can do is we can go, drop down and we can create a new section. So what we could do is, let's say we're doing a reading quiz, so we'll call it the first section is about the park. And what you can do is you can put that title for the subsection there. And this is just the text from the 2019 SAT, and then I've taken the first section, the park, and I've put the text in there. It's about a park closing, so I can go on images, I can put park closed, search for an image, and it will go, that image works quite nicely, so we can add that image in as well. So we can see the section's got the park, it's got an image, and it's got the text. We can then add some questions linked to it, so we could put a multi-choice question, so we could say, who looks after the local park? And we can put the options in, so we could put, is it Joe, is it Joe's mum, is it AJ, is it AJ's mum? And we know it's AJ's mum, so we can put a tick there. We can say that actually will require an answer for that. We can then click another question, so we can have a text, might want to be a short text. We can say, what was AJ doing when the post arrived? Question mark, and then put the text in there, and again the answer is required. If we just have a look, we could change the theme as well. So if we go down, see what looks like a park, so we can put that in there, so it's got a nice background as well. And let's have a look and see what the quiz would look like. So it goes straight to it, gives the title at the top, reading quiz 1. It's got the title for the subsection, the park, it's got the image, it's got the text for them to read. And then when they scroll down, they've got the questions underneath that they can answer. You can also insert images or videos into your forms. So when you look at images, you can use this for aesthetic purposes, or alternatively you can use it for an educational question as well. So you could put an image on with a quite clear question such as who is this, or what is wrong with the image. You could also use it for what can you learn from this image, or you could put an image on that the children could use as a stimulus for writing. The same with the video, you could use the video for something like a stimulus for writing, or alternatively you could use a front-end teaching video and you could put that on with some questions underneath for the children to complete. So an interesting dimension of the forms is the ability to include media such as images or videos. So we'll just look at that now. So let's say we're going to have a bit of a fun quiz like an NUFC quiz. We can click on the theme in the background, so there's not going to be any Newcastle United kind of themes there, so we can click on the plus button, plus at the bottom, and then we can click upload image. So we might just put an NUFC there and click search. It's got the Newcastle logo there. We can click add. What will happen is it'll change the background of the quiz there. Okay, so we've got the background of the quiz with the logo on there, make it really clear. Next up, you might want to add a text question. You might say, who is this? And again, you just click on the insert media tab here. You've got a choice between an image or a video. If we click on image, as we saw before, so you can click and you can search online. Alternatively, if you've got an image that you want to use, you can click upload. I've got an image of Bobby Robson, so I'm going to click open that now, and the image will appear on the right hand side. It'll say who is this, and the image will be there. If we click another add new to have a look at adding a multi-choice question, so we can say who scored the first goal, put a question mark, so we can put Joe Linton, Wilson, or Almiron. Now what we could do is if we just click insert media, go to video, And on YouTube, it's got a video there of some highlights of the game, so I can add that in. You can see that that's there, and then they'll be able to view that as well. Again, I'm just going to click require the answer. I'm going to click on this one, require that answer as well. And when we preview the quiz, you can see it's got the image in the background, it's got the image there, so we can type in Sir Bobby. We are going to look at two ways in which the learners can view forms. The first is if you embed a form on a class notebook. Now there's two major benefits to doing this. The first benefit is that the learner stays on the same tab for the full period of time. This means that without opening a new window, they don't have to return to the original tab to continue with the learning. The second benefit is that we can use forms to drive our lessons. So when we are creating the lesson, we can use a small teaching video which has some follow-up questions just linked to that section. Then we can have a second teaching video with follow-up tasks linked to that section of the lesson. Now, as we know, chunking the learning does reduce cognitive load, which then helps give meaning and context to the information. This then enables the learners also to transfer this information to both their short-term and long-term memory. Following this, we'll then quickly touch on the immersive reader, but we'll have a separate video to show the benefits of this tool. When you get to the point where you're happy with the questions, the media that you've embedded, and the theme that you've chosen for the background, then you can click Share. You've got four options and it automatically goes to the copy of the link, but you can choose to send an email, to embed, so if you were going to put it on a web page, if you click here, it gives you a QR code that can be scanned by something like a mobile phone or an iPad. But if we go back to the link, if you press copy, it then just copies the URL to your clipboard. At this point, I've now got the hyperlink and I'm going to go to my Class 1 notebook. I'm on a page, I've already created a link to the quiz. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the page, I'm just going to press Ctrl and V and you'll see the URL has been put onto the page. If I press space at this point, what you'll see is I've now got a hyperlink and that hyperlink will take me to the form website, but underneath it's embedded it onto the page. At this point the learners can go through and they can see the media, they can see the text, and they can see the questions. So if I have a look through that, if I want to hear, I can choose to put the immersive reader on if I'm the person setting the quiz. So the learners can go there and they can press play.
The park. Ajay has just arrived at.
But you can turn that off. As well as that, if we just go back, you can see the media there. So the image that we've put in earlier on is really clear. They've got the multi-choice questions, so who looks after the local park. They can then click AJ's mum. So I can put an answer here, eating toast. If I now look at the bottom of the page now, if I press next, it takes me to the next section. So this is my NUFC part of the quiz. So who is this? I can put Bobby Robson. So this is the part where I can see an image. I've then got the video here. If I press play, it might take a while to load because it's obviously taken an external site.
Wilson in and Joelinton into the box, plays it across, big chance early on. What a start for Newcastle. 19 seconds on the clock, and Miguel Almiron has.
So at that point, it's just told me it's Miguel Almiron. So I'm at that point just going to go on. If I press next, it's not going to let me go any further because this is a required answer. But I have seen it Almiron, so if I click that, it now lets me go to the next part of the quiz, which is about school dinners. So you can see that again, the media is at the top. So this is a subsection. I've put that as the top picture, just like I did with the Newcastle United logo before. So what do I think about school dinners? And I've got the taste of school dinners. It's got the option there, very good, good, fair. I've put an arrow there, exceptional, very poor. It should have been poor. I've got a choice there. How likely are you to recommend school dinners? Let's put a 10 there. I click next. Okay, because the other question wasn't required. So what is the value of x? 2x equals 10. So I can click x equals 5. What is the correct answer? So I can now got a maths question because I've clicked on there. The maths tab comes up. So 2 over 3 divided by 3. So I'm going to click on this option here. So I'm going to have 2, and the bottom number there would obviously be 9, because 2 divided by 3 is the same as 2 divided by 9, which is the same as 2 over 9. I've got the question here, select the correct answer. So if I don't want them putting in, because you might think that's a bit of a faff for the kids to be able to put in, you can say select the correct answer for the following. 4/5 divided by 3, so I've got 4/5 divided by 3 equals 4/5 divided by 4 divided by 5 divided by 3 equals 4 divided by 15, 4/15, which I know that's the correct answer, so I can do that there. This is the end of the quiz, so rather than next, it's got submit. So if I press that now, it shows thanks, and I can even look at the results as well. So I've got 75% of the points going through. We're going to look at the immersive reading tool because it's a fantastic way to support and enable children who may find written instructions a barrier to their learning. This may be due to being new to reading and not having enough phonic knowledge or sight vocabulary. Alternatively, they may have English as additional language, or they may have another barrier, such as a special educational need. Either way, this tool can be a great deal of support to children who do have reading as a barrier to learning. I've got a separate video that gives further information on the functions of Immersive Reader and how we can use this further. But for now, we're going to look at Immersive Reader as a tool to support children using the app Forms. So I've got the app open here as I had on the previous slide with the text that we looked at previously. As you can see, it is a longer piece of writing, and that might be something that is quite daunting for some children. When we hover over that text, you can see that the icon emerges for the Immersive Reader. At this point, we can click on that icon and that text opens up in the Immersive Reading tool. Now, it automatically sets to English. And what can happen is, as soon as it opens, you can click on the play button at the bottom and the voice will read out the text.
The park. Ajay has just arrived at Joe's house before school.
Alternatively, if children have English as an additional language, they would find it easier to access that text in their own language. They can click on the menu button, then they can click on reading preferences. And then if they go down, they can see where it says translate. They can click on the drop down menu and then they can go. So let's say their native tongue was Arabic. They can select Arabic, then they can translate the document. And you can see that that text is now translating Arabic. And as well as translating it into the written form, it also reads to the children.
الحديقة. أجاي وصل للتو إلى منزل جو قبل المدرسة والدتي.
And this can be a useful way to ensure that all learners are able to engage in the task. That is a general idea of some of the things we can do with forms. So whether you're going to embed in OneNote or send a link for the learners to use an app, I hope you feel confident to use this to support the well-being and assess the learning. And crucially, use it as a tool to gather the relevant information to support the learners and to structure the learning to meet their needs. Thank you.